All right, and welcome to day 2 of chapter 8, section 3. And we'll pick up by looking at how to construct a confidence interval for mu. Well, when the conditions for inference are satisfied, so that we've got an SRS, we've got independence, and we've got normality, the sampling distribution of x bar has a roughly normal distribution. Because we don't know sigma, we estimate it by the sample standard deviation S sub x. And that's what we learned in the last section. Again, this S sub x is no longer called the standard deviation. It is officially called the standard error. So the sample mean x bar. So this is the standard error. If the S of x is replaced with sigma, then it's called the standard deviation. So again, it describes how far x bar will be from mu on average in repeated simple random samples of a certain size. Well, how do we construct a confidence interval on mu? Well, we replace the standard deviation of x bar by a standard error in the formula for the one sample z interval for the population mean. And then we use the critical values from the t distribution with n minus 1 degrees of freedom in place of the z critical values. That is, in our statistic is the x bar, that is our point estimate. Our critical value is now not a z star, it is now a t star with n minus 1 degrees of freedom. And then our standard deviation of the statistic is replaced by the standard error of the statistic, which is that piece right there. So, the one sample t interval for a population mean is similar in both reasoning and computational detail to the one sample z interval. So again, our t interval is very similar to a z interval for a population proportion. In a population mean, we're going to be using x bar, where in the population proportion we're using a p hat. In the population mean, we'll be using a t star, and our standard error is calculated that way. Well, let's look at how we can put this into practice with an example here. Environmentalists, government officials, and vehicle manufacturers are all interested in studying the auto exhaust emissions produced by motor vehicles. The major pollutants in auto exhaust from gasoline engines are hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen oxides, otherwise known as NOx. Researchers collected data on the NOx levels in grams per mile for a random sample of 40 light-duty engines of this type. Okay, so random sample of 40. The mean NOx reading, mean NOx, the mean was 1.2675, and the standard deviation of that sample was 0.3332. So some of the things I might write down at this point are, I know my sample size is 40. I know my mean is the 1.2675. And our standard deviation of that sample, so our S sub x, is 0.3332. What we want to do is be able to construct and interpret. Construct and interpret. Make sure we do both. Again, this is the math that's behind it, and this is the conclusion. I'm going to construct and interpret a 95% confidence interval for the mean amount of NOx emitted by light-duty engines of this type. So again, 95% confidence. We're going to remember that as we use Table B in calculating our critical value. So, if we remember the 4-step process, we're going to state the problem. So we want to estimate the true mean amount mu of NOx emitted by all light-duty engines of this type at a 95% confidence level. We're going to plan and look at the conditions to make sure they're met, and then we're going to use a one sample t-interval to estimate the mu. So, what are the conditions that we need to meet? We need to meet the condition of randomness, that we do have an SRS, and it does say in the problem that we have a random sample of 40 engines from the population. So that satisfies that condition. The 10% condition. Well, we are sampling without replacement, so 10 times the sample size, our 10 times our n, is that less than or equal to our population? Well, 10 times n is 400. I think that is certainly less than or equal to the population of light-duty engines on the road. Large sample. Well, we don't know if the population distribution of NOx emission is normal, so we don't know what that population is. But because the sample size is large, because that sample size is bigger than 30, we should be safe using a t-distribution. And again, we're going to use a t-distribution because we don't know sigma. We do know the S sub x though, so we don't know sigma, and that's why we have to use standard the t-distribution and use the sample standard deviation. Okay, now we'll do the work from the information given. Again, our x bar was 1.2675 and our sample standard deviation is 0.332. To find the critical value t star, we'll use the t-distribution with 39 degrees of freedom, 40 minus 1. So, unfortunately, as we spoke in the previous video, when you get to the table here, 39 is not in there. So we always use the conservative estimate and go round down to the next lowest one. So we're going to use 30. And, and if we're going to do a 95% confidence level, okay, our 95% confidence level would indicate again that we want 95% inside this area, which would give us 0.025 in that tail, 0.025 in that tail, and again our upper tail probability is 0.025. Again, if you read the table from the bottom, you can see that the 95% confidence level, so either reading it from the bottom up or from the top down on the 30 row, should give us here our t star, 2.042. So then it's a matter of just sticking this back into the formula here. So our x bar here was 1.2675. Our t star using table B was the 2.042. Our standard deviation is the 0.3332, and our sample size was 40, so they got the square root of 40. Doing all the math, there should be our confidence interval, a 95% confidence interval. Adding and subtracting, we could also write it like this to illustrate the interval. So, what we can say, and using the template that we had from earlier slides, we can say we are 95% confidence that the interval from 1.1599 to 1.3751 grams per mile captures the true mean level of nitrogen oxides emitted by this type of light-duty engine. Alright, and similar to section 8.2, we want to look at how can we determine an appropriate sample size when we have a desired margin of error stated. Again, similar to what we did in the previous problems, we need to get a reasonable value for the population standard deviation, sigma from an earlier or pilot study. Okay. We need to find the critical value z star from a standard normal curve, and then also then set the expression for the margin of error to be less than or equal to the margin of error. So again, this is if we know the population standard deviation. This is the margin of error part of the formula for confidence intervals. And if we also know that the population is normal. So let's look at an example on how we can all put that together. Researchers like to estimate the mean cholesterol level, mu, of a particular variety of monkey that is often used in laboratory experiments. They would like their estimate to be within 1 milligram, want to be within 1 milligram per deciliter of the true value of mu at a 95% confidence level. So again, I want to be within plus or 1. That's my margin of error right there. It says a previous study involving this variety of monkey suggests that the standard deviation of cholesterol level is about 5 milligrams per deciliter. So again, a previous study suggests that that's our standard deviation. So we're going to borrow that. So here's the problem. Obtaining monkeys is time-consuming and expensive. So the researchers want to know the minimum number of monkeys they will need to generate a satisfactory estimate. So we're going to determine that sample size. Well, for a 95% confidence level, that Z star is 1.96. Again, that's practice from using the table from before. And again, it's that idea that if we have a 95% confidence interval, then I'm going to look up that 0.025 in table A, and that was a negative 1.96 or 1.96 on the positive side. So generally, again, we use the positive number for that. We will use that sigma of 5 as our best guess of the standard deviation because it was done in a previous study. So we're borrowing that. So now we're going to set that expression for the margin of error to be at most 1. So again, our margin of error is going to be at most 1. I don't want it to be over 1. So that's where we get that set right there. Again, putting the formula in, there's Z star was right there. There's our standard deviation that was being borrowed. And we're just going to solve for that n right there. So we can just simply multiply both sides by the square root of n. Multiply on the top here. And we need to have a sample size that's greater than or equal to 96.04. So the next number greater than that, the next integer greater than that, is 97. All right, and so we should have been able to do all these things now after section 8.3. I should be able to state and check for randomness, then the SRS, the 10% condition, normal and large sample conditions for constructing a confidence interval. Again, on means, just hopefully that sample size is bigger than 30. If not, hopefully it does come from a population that is normal. In worst case scenario, if you have a small sample size, does your sample size look normal? And then you should be safe to use a t. We'll be able to explain how the t distributions are different from standard normals, determine critical values for different percent confidence intervals, can construct and interpret a confidence interval, and then the last thing we just talked about was determining the sample size. So you should be able to finish the problems on the lesson for 8.3. So day 2 video would have you be able to do this, 61, 65, 69, 71, 73, 75 through 78. And hopefully that you, prior to watching this video, you did complete these other problems, 49 through 52, 55, 57, and 59. If you've done that and you are able to complete the problems in here, you should be good to go for section 8.3 and be successful. I wish you luck and skill, and we'll see you in the next chapter.